now take you to the broadcast of It's Time with Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. Here's Reverend Martin.
Thank you, Dr. Blackwell. And let me say Hotep Habarigani to my Africana Studies crowd and groups and seekers after the truth and contemporaries. And let me say, how are you? Good afternoon, good evening, but certainly never good night and never ever goodbye, because I've always found goodbyes traumatizing. I said I find goodbyes traumatizing. My name is the Reverend Nathaniel Wayne Martin. I am the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles. And we are being hosted by our sister church, the Shiloh Missionary Christian Church. We are located at 8916 South Main Street. Write it down, 8916 South Main Street in the city of Los Angeles. 9003 is the zip code. And you know, they always say when the Baptists and the Charismatics get together, there's always going to be a shouting in the camp. And surely God has been good to our fellowship and to our communion, and we look ahead for greater things to come even now. All right? Very good. The offering that you are viewing is entitled It's Time. It is a social justice offering. Social justice because you cannot worship God or serve God in a vacuum, because even Jesus said you must be among his people. And how are you going to demonstrate your love for God if you don't demonstrate your love through working with his people? So you can't serve God in a vacuum, and you certainly can't serve him in a bubble. You know, it would be good if we could all just get in a bubble, each individually, and there we would be serving God, worshiping God, and exclusively independent of one another. But God didn't fix it that way. We are social animals, social people, and we do our best when we get together or get among one another. Even if we don't like or agree with one another, we still got to be out here with each other. Hope I can get an amen on that. After all, Jesus was out here with Judas and Simon Peter and a tax collector named Matthew and all of the common people of his age, and he didn't do so bad, and so he has left us an example how we should follow. Now, as we said, it is social justice because we focus on two main areas of social justice. That is on the environmental, and God knows we're destroying this environment, and the economic, because we live in a capitalistic economy, and I don't see any other version coming forward. None of us is communists. We got strong leanings towards socialism, but we all tend to be capitalists with a small c. So then we're going to have to address the economic disparities that our people have suffered. By our people, I'm talking about black people historically, because remember, we didn't come here as immigrants. We were brought here as slaves and forced to labor for over 246 years, as Abraham Lincoln said, of unrequited toil. And so we built up quite a record. If you checked our record, we are owed some money for the labor that was extracted from our foreparents. And you can't say that, well, I wasn't here because you are benefiting and reaping the benefits, whether it's from the legacy of affirmative action in the colleges. Of course, that legacy of affirmative action means that if one of your relatives attended some of these what they used to call Ivy League colleges, but originally, of course, they were colleges built by the slave owners to educate their children in America so they wouldn't have to send them overseas to Oxford to be educated. But of course, during that time, no slave person who was enslaved could attend, They could only accompany their masters and mistresses to the door of the school, as Frederick Douglass once opined. He said he had the feeling that if he could just get in that door, it would open up a world of treasure for him. And we've always tried to educate ourselves. But like I said, the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action, true that. But it didn't strike it all the way down. If you have a legacy, or if you're a legacy student, that means somebody in your family went to Harvard or Yale or Princeton or any of the 8 primarily Ivy League schools, then you can go as well. And of course, who had that privilege? Why, it was the original white people who settled this country. And so John Roberts and Clarence Thomas struck down affirmative action where blacks were concerned, but they kept affirmative action where the white people, white supremacists were concerned. So you can still go to Harvard and Yale and Princeton and Brown and any of those other schools under affirmative action. You just can't go if you are black, because that door has been effectively closed by the 9 Supreme Court justices that voted together as a block. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson and Judge Eleanor Kagan and Judge Sonia Sotomayor were forced to vote in their dissent. And they wrote a scathing dissent. It's well worth your reading. I hope you will look at the dissent in the case of Students for a Fair Admissions versus Harvard, and Students for Fair Admissions versus the University of North Carolina. All right, so affirmative action has been blunted. It's almost dead, but it's right there for the white alumni or white alumnus to still be able to get in the door. And if you play athletics, then of course you can get in the door. And if you're in the military, because they want the people in the military to get themselves educated because they make better soldiers, so-called. And so we can see, if you look at it for what it's worth, really, that white supremacy has won again, which is nothing new, because as W.E.B. Du Bois said when he left America for Ghana, stiff upper lip, old chap, and fight on, but you're not going to win. Speaking to us black activists and all, because he saw, W.B. Du Bois felt that the deck was stacked against us. And because this enterprise was started on to benefit the white people, white supremacists, and if all of the laws were written for their benefit, then what was it written for us, but for our detriment? And so you have to be cognizant of what the enemy is doing. I think the Apostle Paul said in one of his letters that we are not ignorant of his devices. And you surely have to know what the enemy is plotting, what the enemy is doing. Don't buy this individual narrative that they are pushing, because all of their laws and all of their rulings and all of their decision making is to benefit the white supremacists. And if you get taken in or lulled to sleep or seduced by the jargon that we're going to do better and we're going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya, then you're going to be victimized by your own naivete. Now, that being said, we are still aware of the enemy's devices. And remember, Paul wrote in the Ephesian letter that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against what? Principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And so what the Supreme Court epitomizes at this time the rulers of the darkness of this world in high places. As a matter of fact, Judge Scalia let the cat out of the bag. He said that he represents an independent judiciary. Now remember, we didn't vote for any of those 9 people or those 6 people. Majority. They got on there as a result of Donald Trump being able to appoint 3, and they got on there as a result of way back in 1991, I believe it was, when George Herbert Walker Bush was enabled to put Clarence Thomas on there following the resignation of the greatest jurist ever lived, and that was the retirement of Thurgood Marshall. And so that's how the game was set up. And unfortunately for us, Lyndon Baines Johnson was not able to get Abe Fortas appointed to the Supreme Court. They fought him, and when his term ended, then of course, following Nixon, then we had Jimmy Carter, which I don't think he appointed no Supreme Court justices, and then Ronald Reagan. Oh Lord, have mercy. And then following Ronald Reagan, the president behind him was George Herbert Walker Bush, which we called him Pop Senior, Bush Senior. So he was the one that appointed Clarence Thomas. And then, of course, things didn't go well for the Democrats. And even though we had Bill Clinton, and he was able to appoint 1 civil rights justice, but Trump was able to appoint 3 civil rights justices. So now that you have the original Clarence Thomas, who's old now, but he's still breathing thunder, and after him, at least later joining him was William Rehnquist and Samuel Alito, and it's been going downhill ever since. Even Sandra Day O'Connor turned out to be an ultra-conservative jurist, and they mostly looked out for the business class, the corporations, and their rulings, in other words, tended to favor the corporations that brought their cases before the Supreme Court. But let me not digress. There are so you see that voting matters. You may say my vote don't count, but your vote does count. So we have to keep a stiff upper lip and go down to the polls and vote, and then hold the people's feet to the fire that we vote for, and don't let them get up there and start, enjoying themselves and forget about the people that put them there, and that we expect them to produce helpful policies for us that will benefit us. That's what's the point of putting them up there if they're not going to do no better than the other people we didn't put up there. So consequently, voting matters. We can see coming up on this 2024 election, all the seats in the House of Representatives are going to be up for grabs, and we need to make our voices heard in all 50 states. remember, there are a lot of reactionary, retrograde type Republican-sponsored groups. One of the latest is the Moms for Liberty, which started back in 2021, and of course they are right-wing people, and they are the ones that are behind the bans in the book bans all across this nation, and they're getting their people on the school boards and the publishing boards and all of the cities and counties and states. And so we're going to have to play catch up and get our people elected on these school boards, on these PTAs, and on these book buying, book publishing commissions, so that we can keep Alice Walker's books in print and in the school system. What was it so controversial about Amanda Gorman, who did that beautiful poem at Biden's inauguration? But yet her poem was banned by these mothers. You can't make this stuff up, folks, I often say, but that's what we're dealing with. Reactionaries, yes, they don't want to teach history in the school. They want to teach us the old version about George Washington never telling a lie, and we know that's a lie. We know now that George Washington was a slaveholder, and not only was he a slaveholder, but he was doing his best to recapture one of his favorite slaves. But thank God she never was recaptured. Honor made judge. And everything, but so we that's the history we want to find out about, the real history and of the United States, not the varnished and adulterated, edited, abridged version, but we want the actual history of this nation. And then if we still want to say George Washington was a great man, then that's our that's our agenda, that's our prerogative, rather, to say what we think about George Washington. But let us have the unedited version of American history. And don't be afraid like they are in Florida. And they're banning knowledge, banning books. They sound like the Catholic Church when Copernicus and Galileo said that the world was not flat, or that the world didn't revolve around the earth, but that the earth was revolving around the sun. That's the way DeSantis and his ilk are in Texas and in the other 11 Confederate states are behaving themselves. But truth must be told, and the right must win in order for the wrong to lose. And so Mr. Blackwell gave me this document here. He just came back from Mason, Tennessee, and he interviewed Miss Virginia Rivers, who's the lady over here, and they were successful, I think, in getting keeping the town of Mason from being what was the word he used? Decharted. They kept that charter, in other words, so they're still a small town municipality, and they kept their water rights, and so with the Ford Motor Company coming in with a $4.5 billion project to build batteries in that area, well, then these black people in Mason stand to make a lot of money, and that's what you need in this country is money. And so, in other words, they own their land, and they own their farms, and they own the city of Mason. And if the white people want their property, they're going to have to do what? Come and negotiate, do business. Don't come stay here black folk, this is what you get, now get on out of here. No. Let's negotiate. Let's find out what advantage that the black people in Mason can have. And let's do it the right way. Slavery is over. And so we got to uphold Mason. That's where Justin Pearson, that's in Justin Pearson's district. And we must uphold them and help them in any way that we can. I took a picture with Justin Pearson when he was out here on the 19th of June, over there at the LAX Hilton Hotel. Very fine young man. He and Justin Jones and Attorney Benjamin Krupp, very fine people on the battlefield fighting for justice, fighting for social justice, fighting for racial justice. And those are the people that we got to push. And thank God when the white supremacists put them out of the state legislature there in Tennessee, then the black people say, well, oh, hold it. We put those people there to represent us. Not so fast. And the people had enough clout and they had enough votes to send those two persons back on that Monday into that chamber. They put them out on a Good Friday, and by that Wednesday or that next week, they were back on the job. And so we thank God for standing by these two brethren. All right, now, that was in Tennessee, Mason, Tennessee, where the white folks tried to revoke the charter, but because of the courage of Miss Virginia Rivers, they weren't able to succeed with that. All right, now come to California with its liberal reputation. And now we go down to Palm Springs, and we find that what the white folks in Tennessee tried to do in Mason, that the white folks out in Palm Springs was successful in doing in what they call Section 14. Now, most of Palm Springs, people don't know, that was reservation, that was Indian territory. And the Indians had just been recently settled there. You know, they settled the Indians in California, they settled the Indians in Oklahoma, and places like that, and said, get in there on those reservations and don't come out. All right, now, long story short, so the Indians had the land in Palm Springs. Now, by being Indian land, the city of Palm Springs, which began to grow up around there, wouldn't give the Indians no water rights, wouldn't put in no electricity, wouldn't put in no sewage and all that kind of stuff. You know how you know the game. And but yet Palm Springs was beginning to grow. Now we're talking about from 1876 on up to when this battle to take this land became a big fight. And of course, just as in Mason, the city fathers in Palm Springs wanted to try eminent domain. And what they did was where they couldn't legislate it, well, they just sent people in to burn the people out. And so that place was violently destroyed. You know, you had black maids and domestic workers, in other words, who had migrated there from wherever and to get a job, and they were renting from the Indians and the like, and they come home to find that their place had been burned by the city fathers, so that they had nowhere to go. All right, 5 minutes, y'all. And so Miss Areva Martin, no relation, is negotiating with the city of Palm Springs so far to try to negotiate a settlement for reparations for the people that were pushed out of there with nothing. And I trust she will be successful, and I think she's at a right time to strike while the iron is hot. The state of California State of California Reparations Commission just issued its final report, over 1,000 pages, on reparations for Negroes, descendants of slaves here in America, or in California rather. And it's quite an impressive tome. I've read portions of it. I have not read all 1,000 pages of it, even though a lot of those are pictures and graphs and charts. But, amen, that's a thick report to go through. But it shows how little value that black people have had in California. And it shows how little value, social worth, were placed on the Native American Indians. Even those Indians that were called the civilized tribes. And to be a civilized tribe, you had to speak English and hold slavery, have Negroes as slaves. But even with all of that, they could not make the white man not push them off of their land and the like. So as I wrap up, remember, social justice, we deal with the environment and we deal with the economics, because that's what the system deals with. It deals with economics and the environment. They always put the pollution spewing factories out where the Negroes are, where the Indians are, and knowing that that environment is going to be cumulative over the years. And so that is a strike against us. We always were put in the places that the white folks didn't want, as a matter of speaking. And consequently, we were breathing in the polluted air, the smoke-filled air. We had to drink water out of the polluted streams or wells and that type of thing. So environmental justice now demands that all over the world that men stop polluting the earth, and stop abusing nature, and start working with nature. And we, as a humankind, we don't want to hear that, because we want to do like what we've always done, just dump it in the river, just dump it in the ocean. Well, the rivers are getting polluted. The water in Flint, Michigan was polluted. The water in Jackson, Mississippi is polluted. And the water in hundreds of other places is likewise polluted. We just don't know it yet. And so, as I wrap up, the Writers Guild is still out on strike. The hotel workers are staging a strike to get an increase from $19 an hour to $25, even though the cost of living is now at $42 an hour. And so you can see the variation between the cost of living, $42 an hour, and what you're being paid, $19 to $25 an hour. And you can tell that you got a long way to go. That wealth gap is ever widening. Remember, some people are making $87,000 an hour, while we are struggling to get to $25. And so what I'm saying, as I always say at these times, if you're working on a job, if you're a hotel worker, or you're working anywhere, and they don't want to pay you, honey, brother, sister, don't work for them. Thank you, Doc. All right, I'm out of here.